Don't get me wrong.
Daphne Yoren, not too long ago, prosecuted a man who was robbing somebody at a phone booth. The robber pushed the man down. He was old, you can see there. Pushed the man, oh, it was an ATM, sorry. Pushed the man down, he hit his head. He later died of brain contusion. But she said, look, we should pursue this idea of restorative justice. He didn't mean to kill him. So in that case, she wanted leniency for a criminal who accidentally killed someone.
Right. I find it odd that she thinks like that, but she wants to charge Danielle Penny for the opposite.
So I'm going to give you an example of something that I did with a recent case of mine, and this has never been done in my office. I had a murder case where the defendant did not intentionally kill the victim. He went into an ATM on the Upper West Side and tried to rob an individual. Unfortunately, it was an older individual. He was 86. And in the course of the robbery, he fell to the ground, and as a result, he died. This is, under the law, a felony murder, which is akin to intentional murder. However, when I first got the case, I learned, I took the time to learn about the defendant. And it was a strong case, so it wasn't about a whodunit. I knew immediately who did it. I could prove it. I could take it to trial that day and win it. But it wasn't about that. It was that the more I learned about the defendant and his life and the circumstances, the kinds of things that Jarrell was talking about, that one should take into account the trauma of that individual, I really felt incredibly sorry for him that he had gotten to that point in his life where he felt like there was no other choice but to commit this robbery.
And DC Driano says this was infuriating to watch. Nowhere does she talk about the victim's trauma or victim's family. She focuses on skin, color, and equity. This lady is pure, racist, and evil. Let me know in the comments.
Penny. He's a U.S. Marine who is accused in the chokehold death of a black homeless man on a New York City subway. He is back in court as of this moment for what they call a conference today. That's video of him entering the court. Earlier this year, a judge denied his request to dismiss the charges against him. He got a second-degree manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide back on the 1st of May last year of 2023. This is the video. It went on for several minutes. Daniel Penny was on board the subway car, and the other individual apparently was having one of these fits, which is not all uncommon in New York these days. And Penny tried to step in and subside things, and it was a tragic outcome. And Daniel Penny is now before a judge yet again to see where this case goes. So I wanted to share that with you. Penny.
I'm not saying because of the crime he deserves to be deleted. All I'm saying, if you weren't afraid to arrest him for a specific reason other than he is black and he had a bad past, maybe arresting him and giving some responsibility and accountability and out of the street might have helped him way better to avoid this situation. And I find it odd that certain people don't see that.
Alright y'all, I wanted to make a quick video as we are awaiting the verdict for Daniel Penny and remind everybody how we got into this situation, and that has to do with Jordan Neely's extensive criminal past and also the New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg refusing to do his job. So let's not forget that Jordan Neely had 42 prior arrests and at his time of death had a warrant out for attacking a woman on the subway. To give you guys a quick idea of this man's history, he had kidnapped a 7-year-old back in 2015. He had punched a 67-year-old in the face so hard that he fractured her nose and her orbital bone. He also, unprovoked, attacked 2 other men in a similar fashion, breaking one of the victim's nose. These were 2 separate instances. And again, was just overall arrested multiple times. He also exposed himself to a woman on the subway in a different instance. So he had a very extensive criminal history. Even the Department of Homeless Services in New York had Jordan Neely on their top 50 list of people who need help. And keep in mind, this is New York. So if you're making a top 50 list of someone who needs help, you clearly shouldn't be roaming the streets of New York, which leads us to who holds responsibility for what happened on the subway that day, and that is District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Because if Alvin Bragg had potentially put Jordan Neely in jail, he could have gotten the help that he needed. Daniel Penny would not have been put in the situation in which he had to stand up and defend New Yorkers from this erratic and violent man who should never have been on the streets to begin with. So to be quite frank, the only person who should be on trial right now is not Daniel Penny, but Alvin Bragg, who cultivated and created a dangerous environment in which New Yorkers are continuously being harassed, attacked, and even killed on the streets of New York every single day. Now, let's take a peek at this case really quickly. Multiple witnesses came forward and thanked Daniel Penny for the actions that he took that day because, and you even had subway riders who had ridden the subway for decades say that this is the first time where they legitimately felt threatened and that the entire train car filled with people were more terrified than they've ever been because Neely was a legitimate threat. You had a woman who had her 5-year-old son there who thanked Daniel Penny for standing up and restraining Jordan Neely because she was afraid for her son. Okay, so that's what the witnesses on the train that day were stating in this trial. Now let's take a peek at the medical examiner who, by the way, initially stated that Jordan Neely's cause of death was inconclusive. She didn't even get the toxicology report back, but then she decided that he died of asphyxiation after watching the video of Neely's death.
In other words, she saw a black guy choked by a white guy and was like, oh, I have to be careful how I decide this.
Now, in the trial, she stated that she didn't care if Neely had enough fentanyl in his system to kill an elephant.
That's a wild statement to go from inconclusion to elephant killing fentanyl because you saw a video, right? And before you would say, well, that's a biased view because that's false. Okay, let the mayor in a democratic city that thinks democratic is going to have a democratic opinion.
Look at that on a multi-faceted approach of everything that's wrong with the system that we're facing. One, look at the photo that they used to show the victims. It seemed like it was a young, innocent child who was brutally murdered, and it gave that impression. When you looked at the photo that was being used, it wanted to set up in the minds of people that we were dealing with a young, innocent child that, just a Michael Jackson intimidator that, was just brutally assaulted. Then you look at the complete failure of our mental health system, a complete failure from the days of closing psychiatric wards and having those who needed help just turned over into the street without giving any safety net to accept them. Parents reach out to me all the time and say, I'm watching my child go down, or my loved one, my family member going down this serious decline. What do we do? A system where you brought people into hospitals, gave them medicine for one day, and sent them back. The young man in this case was going within our system, throughout the revolving door of our system. Now, we're on the subway where we're hearing someone talking about hurting people, killing people. You have someone on that subway who was responding, doing what we should have done as a city and a state of having a mental health facility. Those passengers were afraid. I'm hoping that the jury will hear all the facts. Based on all the facts that's laid out, a jury of his peers would make the right decision. And I don't want to prejudge that. I'm just looking at all the facts that are involved here and what we did to get to where we are and what we're seeing. Because that could have easily been a case where you saw 3 innocent people murdered on our street 2 weeks ago.
I think most people would agree. If the person that passed away was white, we would never hear about it. Some say he might have choked the person too much. That might be true. Let's see how he explained that to a cop. Because I also think somebody trained in special forces, army, they might have more skill to hold a person down than accidentally choking them, something that I might have done. But I'm safe because I'm black.
Kind of run with me and Detective Medina, the course of your day, where you're coming from, where you're going, and then what led up to, the incident on the train.
Absolutely. So I have class down in Brooklyn. I take the F down to J Street Metro Tech. My class was at 12. So once the class finished up, I was going straight to the gym. I go to the gym in Lifetime on 23rd Street. So I get off. I take the F straight from school to the gym. Was on there. I forget what stop it was at, but some guy came in. He's like, whipped his jacket off, and he's like, gonna kill everybody. I can go to prison forever. I don't care. I don't do this. At that point, I looked to the person next to me like, hey, just hang on to this phone for me. I had my headphones in, took it off, and just kind of like grabbed him from behind because he came in just to like, because he was acting like a lunatic, like a crazy person. So, and he was rolling around the floor, and at that point the train stopped. I was like, someone call the cops, and he's still like rolling around, still going crazy. Had two other guys kind of help me, just kind of keep him from going nuts, and yeah, that's when you guys came. He got on like diagonally from me, so he came in, but I was on my phone, like listening to music. I wasn't paying attention. He's just a crackhead, you know what I mean? So
When you say diagonally, what do you mean? Like the opposite door? Or
so
like,
if you don't mind, I could like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, say this is the door over here.
Okay.
He came in from like where you're at.
Okay. So he gets on and immediately
Yes,
he starts yelling at it. Like doors are still open at whatever stop, he gets on.
He gets, yeah, the doors closed, and then he's threw stuff at those people, and he's like, if I don't get this, this, and this, I'm gonna kill everyone. I'm prepared to go to jail for life and stuff.
And if that ain't a threat, I don't know on which planet you're living in. And what he said can be confirmed by all the other witnesses. People are actually happy he was there. But hey, he's white. But this is wild that we want to normalize this, because with this mindset, nobody is going to try to help anybody anymore. And that's what I want. Or that's what I feel that I want. Because they're going after the guy.
Specifically what he was saying, like if I get this, this, and this, do you remember?
He said like maybe like Sprite or ginger ale or something. I mean, something along those lines.
Did he seem like he was on something? Did he
Yeah,
seem
absolutely.
intoxicated, high?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that K2 that they're smoking, pushing people in front, like these people are going crazy. So
So he seemed off his lid, basically.
A little bit,
right?
yeah.
Now explain the interaction you had with him.
So I came up, had his back turned to me, and I just kind of got him in a hold, got him to the ground. He's still like squirming around and still, going crazy. And I turned to the guy, I'm like, hey, call the cops, because the train arrived in Broadway,
Yeah.
and then waited for you guys.
Okay.
Dan, you said Danny, right?
Yes, correct.
Do you mind showing me?
Sure, yeah.
You got him?
Yeah, so he's standing behind me,
Yeah.
and I kind of came like this.
Okay. Did
And
you
then-
apply pressure, Daniel?
No, I wasn't, I just wanted to keep him from getting to people.
Did you put your hooks in?
Wrapped my leg.
And the only thing I find rather weird about this whole situation, why are you talking to them without your lawyer? And a bunch of people are already saying, hey man, maybe the president needs to pardon him. Nope, it has already been fact-checked. He can't pardon state crime. Simple.
Penny did not testify, but many of the New York City subway passengers who witnessed the altercation between him and Jordan Neely did. Penny is charged with manslaughter in Neely's death. He faces 15 years in prison if convicted. CB Cotton, live in New York City with more on that case. CB.
Hi, John. Yeah, jurors are back in the courtroom tomorrow after having the entire holiday week off. Daniel Penny's defense attorneys will give their closing arguments first, and we expect them to take about 2 hours, but there's no time limit. Penny's defense team appeared very confident before the holiday about one of their final witnesses, a forensic pathologist they hired who maintained that Daniel Penny's chokehold alone did not kill Jordan Neely. Instead, Dr. Satish Chandru testified, quote, combined factors led to Neely's death. He said the effects of Neely's blood condition, synthetic marijuana use, schizophrenia, along with the exertion during the struggle with Penny, all killed Neely. The Marine veteran, as you said, did not testify in his own defense, but jurors heard from Penny several times on video, to include clips from officers' body cameras showing Penny's interactions with officers right after the ordeal, and this 25-minute taped interview with police, which shows Penny waiving his Miranda rights to answer detectives' questions when he didn't know Neely had died. The defense attorneys said they believe their case is so strong, it's going to lead to an exoneration.
So in other words, Jordan Neely, the black person that passed away, might have died from other reason than a choke, but at the same time, I find it interesting they were interviewing a person for a death when he didn't even know there was a death. Without a lawyer, gotta keep pointing that out.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Put the fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam. Durloqueta verdetta welcome.